Normally do a general AMA for these, and this time around we are trying something different. We know a lot of you or have a lot of questions about Proving Ground, about map and level design in general, and so we invited Brad to talk about that and do a very topic specific Twitter space. So yeah, let's try to keep the questions on topic so that yeah we get all that we can get out of Brad because he's awesome and he has a lot of knowledge. So yeah, just send a request to be a speaker, and I'll let you up. What do we call this? A stage? I guess it's more like a Discord thing, but we'll call it a stage.
This is a
I'll let
stage.
you.
Oh,
I'll let you up on the stage, and you can ask Brad your questions. For now, Brad, do you want to just do a little intro about yourself and what you do at Midnight Society?
yeah. So, so I'm Brad. And then at Midnight Society, I'm the one and only right now level designer. And that means that like the team's really big. There's a bunch of people working on a bunch of different stuff. So my job is kind of to design spaces for us to play the game using all of the systems that everybody else has worked on. I have to try to make a space that makes those systems the most fun, basically. And then later, like if you guys look at Proving Ground right now, it's like all gray box or like white box, whatever you call it. And then later, other people on the art team would help make everything look really pretty, right? So that's pretty much it. Or like that's a simple way to say what I do.
Yeah, I like that. That was literally like a very simplified way to explain what you do, but also a good overview. Yeah, so do you want to maybe just talk a little bit about Proving Ground and how you designed it? Maybe like some of the challenges and also like the things that you really enjoyed about designing Proving Ground?
Yeah, yeah. So Proving Ground was pretty. It was definitely a challenge because I feel like so the goal um, was Quinn as the creative director was giving me direction of like, okay, we need our first space to be able to play this game that we're making. I know that we don't have all of the systems in yet. I know that we don't have this or we don't have this. Like when I was first making Proving Ground, you couldn't even like in Snapshot 3 now we can clamber onto stuff and kind of climb up stuff and do all kinds of things. There's zip lines. But when I was first designing the space, none of that was in. So I was like, okay, that makes it a little interesting. And then also we were trying, well, I was going to say we were trying to figure out exactly what kind of game we make, but I think the type of game we're making was known, right? But I guess I was trying to understand this game because I had made like basically my background is from like mod or custom map experience from other games, right? And those games were generally pretty traditional, like if you think of like Counter-Strike where there's like defuse or Call of Duty search and destroy kind of thing where there's a pretty set idea of like, okay, this is a good map. There's 3 lanes, and then it takes this long to get from the spawn to this spot. So you can like all this, like there are already all of these rules, right? That I was pretty familiar with. But for Proving Ground, that is not the type of game we're making, right? So that made it a pretty big challenge. And then even there were like several versions of the map that I was showing Quinn, like, hey, I kind of have the ball rolling with this idea, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, should I keep working with this? I don't know. Is this what we're looking like? Is this what we're going for? Um, and several of those ideas kind of got thrown out because they weren't what we were looking for. Um, and then there were like a lot a lot of time was spent kind of on rough drafts of stuff that helped get us closer to what is Proving Ground now. Um, so I feel like that wasn't wasted time or anything like that. But in the end, we ended up with Proving Ground as we have it now, and I think it. serves the purpose, or I should say, it accomplishes the goal of creating a fun, interesting space for us to test our vertical extraction shooter game, right? I think it's great for that. And then with all the knowledge that we've gained from Proving Ground and from the specifically for me for the level design, now with things we're working on for the future, right? We're like I there are a lot of lessons learned that I'm bringing into what we're working on moving forward. Yeah, I hope I hit everything you asked.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. Yeah, Quinn, did you want to add anything, or should we start taking some questions?
I think Brad hit it on the head. There's anytime you're starting something from scratch, it's always challenging. You have times where you feel like you're doing well, and then you get pretty much like when you're writing a book, you got writer's block. You get the same thing when you're designing something. You get designer's
Mhm.
block, and then you're in your head casing a little bit, and that happens with everybody. That's not unique to any one thing or any person. And so that's just the fun times of when you're not just making a level from scratch, but an entire game. And the game is in motion and all sorts of things, lots of moving pieces from art to code to design. Everything is in motion. So that could always be a fun challenge for us to tackle when we're taking on something like this. And so that's what Brad is kind of getting at there is there's challenging times when and you're working on something from scratch as opposed to working on something that has been defined in other kind of games. When you're making mod maps for those kind of games, they're already defined, and you could easily it's more easier to make maps for those experiences because the rules are all set. Well,
Right.
not for us. Our rules aren't always set, and so there's things that we're making and trying stuff out, throwing things away, finding new things that we didn't know about, and then because of that, we have to be really reactive and a lot of times to things that come out of nowhere that we really like or dislike, and then we have to change not only game systems but also level systems and everything there all in between. So yeah, exactly.
And it's a fun challenge.
Cool.
I like how you emphasized, like, I hope I didn't sound like, oh man, it's been so hard. It's been awesome. Like, it's been such a fun challenge. And yeah, like, you're right. There were moments where it's like, oh man, like, how am I gonna, like, what is the finished product gonna work like, gonna look like? I can't even think of it right now. Kind of like, there are moments like that, but it's been really awesome. Like, the journey's super fun. It's fun figuring this out from like the level design perspective. You know, it's been awesome.
We'll see how long it stays that way. It's just the beginning of the journey.
All
It's been great.
right.
Is that a
What were you gonna say?
no? Nothing. Okay, sorry. Keep going.
Oh, good. We do have Rob here as well. So
Yeah,
just
baby.
figuring out that you can only have up to 2 co-hosts in Twitter
Oh,
Spaces. So Brad beat you. So he gets co-host privilege today, but you're still a speaker. So welcome, Rob.
I'm just in the audience. I'm just here to get that Bradergy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Soak it in.
Uh,
Spray it
okay.
all over me.
It's always good to
No.
have Rob here, aka the mouth of the South, as I like to call him.
Whoa! I dance under that name.
Good.
Boogaloo Bob.
Go change your Twitter profile right now. Mouth of the South.
oh my god, that's funny. Okay, cool. We have Kyle here as well. Did you want to ask a question?
Hey, yeah, I did. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. I guess my
Yep.
question
Yes.
for Brad was: are there any specific, Unreal Engine 5, or I doubt you guys have upgraded to 5.1 tools that are making your life maybe a little bit easier than in the past?
Yeah. So yes. Short answer is yes. For some context, the a lot like the custom maps I was working on before joining the team, I was they were for a VR game for that was like meant for the Quest 2, like that standalone headset. So my how would I say, like, I had to be thinking a lot about optimization and making sure this map is going to run. Like, I can't add too much detail or else like it won't work. People won't be able to play it, stuff like that. So with Unreal Engine 5, and you're right, we haven't joined, or we haven't gotten 5.1 yet, because I think it like just came out today. But that said, with Unreal Engine 5, we can really go wild on detail, which is coming, right? Because Proving Ground is still a gray box. But seeing what some of the art team is doing in the background, with especially with Nanite and the way that works, and even Lumen, how pretty much all lights can be like real-time lights. That is, I think, when it's like when our spaces are finished, they're gonna look, I think, like nothing we've ever seen before. Like before, you really had to worry about poly count or tri count or whatever, but now it's totally a paradigm shift. We have a guy who joined the team pretty recently, Brighton, and he's been amazing with like kind of pushing us to understand this paradigm shift of like, guys, we can use like as many tries as we want. Like, this place can look crazy. We can keep adding detail. So I think for sure, yeah, Nanite has been something that is really, we're doing our best to take advantage of it early and understand it early, so that when these play spaces are done, they're going to look incredible.
Yeah. I'll chime in on that. I think one of the really cool things is, like, Brad's talking a lot about from a production standpoint, right? As we're actively building, but also in a pre-production state. Like, when we first started this project and we're figuring out, like, what does the very first space look like, right? Which ended up being the player hideout. When we were like sort of ideating around the player hideout, like, there were a lot of discussions, and I'm like, oh my God, like, why are we not just building anything? And I loaded up the engine. I just built something really quick that was shitty that everybody threw out and we didn't end up using. And then, like, but it was enough to get the conversation started. Like, I built something really quick in engine, and it was like, oh, like, what about this? And then guy came in and was like, oh no, that fucking sucks. And like drew a whole new design, like, on paper. And then Eric took that design and like modeled it out in Blender as like one big piece, one big mesh, right? Which normally would be unusable besides just looking at it in Blender and making decisions. And then we imported that because we could with a UE5. We just imported that in, and we didn't ship with that, right? But it allowed us to iterate very quickly, get that big built out sculpted mesh in there. So we got a sense of scale and layout and scope and all of that stuff. And then we could start building even faster. So even from a pre-production iteration standpoint, it helps us so much. And you mentioned 5.1. We're planning on doing a switch here at the end of the year to fully take leverage of all of the new features in 5.1. And we're so excited because the way we're going to be able to leverage Nanite after 5.1 is going to take all those same advantages and just increase them tenfold in our asset creation post December, right? So our weapon creation, and that's really where we want to leverage it, is really allowing us to do really cool stuff on the weapon side, like the prop side, not just the environment side that we've been using it for up to this point.
No, that's awesome. I much appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Cool. So, Brad, do you also want to just tell us how you got into map/level design?
Sure. I'll try to, I feel like there's a long version and a short version, so maybe I can hit like a middle version of the story. I'm thinking like where to start. Basically, maybe like the shorter version is, I've always really, really liked games, right? And I've always even like, I guess I didn't notice that I liked this so much, but I've always liked kind of tinkering around with like editors, like map editors inside games. Like for Counter-Strike Source, I remember making some really simple small maps and stuff. And then even for like the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games, I was like making stuff because they had an editor. So I always liked that, but I guess I didn't really pay attention to how much I liked it. Because during college, I studied one thing and then graduated, got a job doing something that was like, it was fine. It was like a fine job that someone might like. And then I was like, I don't really like this that much. So I even after what I studied in college, I was like, no, let's do a career transition to this other thing, which was like digital marketing, which I'm sure there's a great career in there for a lot of people, but I don't know. I did that for like a couple of years. Didn't really like that. And then at the same time as like those, I was going to school for like, I was going to grad school to get like a even more like business degree stuff. And then as I was doing my full-time actual job and then studying all this stuff in the background, a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, my brother, who is already in the industry as an artist, he reached out to me and he's like, hey, let's like make a little game together. Like it could be really simple. Let's do it. And I was really hesitant, but he convinced me to like, okay, let's make something. And I didn't have a lot of experience, but I was like, okay, you'll be the artist, and I'll try to do everything else. So I tried learning. We were using Unity, so I tried learning how to like. Where I'm going at is I got a little taste of everything doing this little project with my brother, where I was like the main person who was doing the coding stuff, and then I was doing the blockouts of the environments, right? And then even with like the story and all this, like everything that goes into it, I got a little taste of everything. And then I remember showing my brother and his girlfriend like some of the blockouts I was making for this little game we were making, and his girlfriend was like, "Hey, this is like, this is like what they actually you're doing what they really do in the industry, right? Do you realize that like this gray box that you created, it's like this is what a level designer would do, like, and it looks like you're pretty good at it." And I was like, I never thought of that. Like that was quite the compliment, and it got me thinking, like doing this side project with my brother it was like unlocking this creative piece of my brain that I hadn't been touching for years, and it was so satisfying. Where like even during my full-time job, if I had any downtime or even after my job, I was like, okay, I want to keep working on this other thing, which was like, it was a lot of work, right? It was still work. Um, and then eventually I was like, dude, what am I doing? Like, I don't like my job right now, but I really like this other thing. I'm pretty sure there's a career in this, to be had, right? I wonder if I'm good enough. Like, I wonder if I could do this. Like, I didn't go to a game school. Oh man, I don't know if anyone's gonna want me. I don't have like one of those game degrees, or like, oh, like looking online on like LinkedIn or whatever. I see other level designers or just like game people, and their portfolios are massive with like all kinds of projects from years. And I was like, oh man, I don't have that. Like nobody's gonna look at my portfolio and like care at all. But I worked really hard to put together a portfolio that I felt comfortable like sending in applications to people, and it's like, I think maybe someone will appreciate this. um, and I applied to a lot of jobs, and eventually I feel like ridiculously lucky to be where I am right now at Midnight Society, where where the team is willing to take on someone who's more green, but someone who's ready to work really hard and learn and just work. So I feel really lucky to be here, where in that moment, that's what the team was looking for, or what they were willing to take, was someone pretty green. And then even like a side note is, I know we're still hiring. We're looking for more people. I don't think we want me to be the only level designer on the team forever, So I'm pretty sure we're in the process of finding some more level designer people. So if that's you, then I would apply. But I guess I gave the long version there, right? The short version is, for years I was doing other work that I realized I wasn't super interested in. And then I was like, I picked a specific thing in the industry that I knew was like a specific role, like, level design. And then I tried really hard to make a portfolio that I think stood out, and I think it worked out.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, for anyone, if there's anyone listening right now who's like, man, I want to get in the industry, but I don't know if I'm good enough, I'd say, like, if you have a portfolio, I don't know, I just say don't give up. Apply for like every job you see, even if you think like, oh, these people, they're like, they're the end goal. I don't know if I'll ever be good enough for them. Just like apply, right? Work really, really hard and apply. Put
Yeah,
your best foot.
100%.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I think Quinn has his hand up. Is that what that is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just
Okay.
raising my hand when you were saying if any of you are listening and you think you might be good enough to join the industry, work it out and try to apply. And I was like, oh man, I think that's me.
Yeah, you could be like Brad and think you're good enough and be right, or you could be like Quinn and think you're good enough and be terribly wrong.
Yes.
Aw.
It's
Yes.
really a 50-50 for you.
Yes. 100%. Yes.
Oh, don't cry. No, you're great, Quinn.
It's okay. I'm all right.
Also, like, random Twitter space side note. I feel like everyone can hear us if we're typing, right? Like, you can hear keyboards. Is that just me?
I'm not typing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Someone's
definitely
laughing,
typing.
so I feel like.
Yep.
Oh, before anyone is sad face. Okay. So just random thing that we found out. Yeah, just we'll mute if we're ever typing anything. Because I take notes too on these Twitter spaces. So I was like, oh man, I hope that I'm not being too loud. But anyway, thanks, Brad. Yeah, that was super awesome. I like the long version because I still really like your LinkedIn post where you talked about, I mean, just like to put it in one sentence, you went from marketing to game design. Like that's really cool. And I think that that's really inspiring and encouraging too for people that not just people who might be studying engineering or design already, maybe they're still in school, but people that maybe chose a career path and like really like dedicated themselves to that career path and then feel like, oh, maybe in their 20s or 30s or whatever that they want to switch over. Like it's totally possible. And I think you're a really cool example of that.
Yeah, I have a friend who he was pretty much a coworker the whole time that I was going through like preparing my portfolio, and then eventually I actually got the job and all this stuff. He was there the whole time. He's like, man, I want to do that someday. Like maybe one day I'll transition. And I'm like, dude, what are you waiting for? Like, I'm sure you're crazy busy. Everybody will always be really, really busy, right? Just like you have to decide to make time to, practice and get a portfolio ready and like build up your skills so that it's not just like, oh, maybe one day I can flip a switch and make the transition. It's like, dude, if you really want it, like go for it right now, So if he was here listening right now, I'd be telling him that.
Yeah, that's great. Cool.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, what are some of your do you have any favorite like nooks and crannies in Proving Ground or little like areas that you were designing where you were like, wow, this is really dope. I really like this. I can't wait to share it with people.
No, he doesn't want to share any of those with people. In fact, when he goes in playtest, he goes out of his way to go to those stupid nerdy spots that only he knows about because he's the level designer. He's like, oh, I'm getting all these kills. And he's over here doing all this stuff, killing people. And it's like, yeah, of course you know that because you designed it.
No.
Every
Brad,
level designer I've ran into does
Quinn's
that same
joking.
thing.
He's joking.
I'm not joking.
He's
Every level
actually not
designer does
joking
this
at all.
crap. They think it's so cool. They go to their spots and they don't tell anyone about it until they get like multiple
Super
kills.
scummy.
I don't know. Sounds like someone's looking for some kind of reason for why I'm getting more kills than somebody else and has to blame it on something.
You're cheating, Brad. You cheat every playtest. We all know it, and it's time people knew.
Oh my god.
Okay, they're joking.
This is becoming somehow a game team like therapy session now. Just get it all out, guys.
Well, there's just a difference between, Brad plays to win all the time. I'm actually playing from like a 30,000 foot view to see what all the things are wrong with the game. He's over here really trying to get kills. So that's why you get more kills, bro.
There's truth to that. There's definitely truth to that.
So what you're saying is there's a reason your internal nickname is Bloodthirsty Brad?
Yeah, put that on your Twitter profile now.
Quinn, you sound so butthurt. This is so funny.
Hey,
To
don't
get
be
like
talking about my hind parts.
it'd be great to get like a blood dripping version of my variant with like a bloody handprint smearing across the visor cortex thing. That'd be
You wish.
that'd be pretty cool.
Oh my god, that's funny.
But okay, so to answer to answer your question, like, are there any specific things like spots in Proving Ground that I really like? um, I think even so, I think I tried to like, okay, here's I think this was a piece of feedback even before anyone even played Proving Ground or something, where someone was saying like, okay, you guys are making a vertical extraction shooter. Does that mean that once you get to the top, like the most elevated position of the map, you're in the most strong position and
Yeah,
like,
I remember.
you have a big advantage once you're at the top? Is that what that means? So during some early play tests of Proving Ground, there was, I mean, there still is that building that is like, it feels like an apartment complex. And that is like the most elevated part of the map is like on top of that building, right? So during really, really early play testing, the team would get to the top of that building, and then I'm going to try to describe it, but it was kind of like the roof of the building, the drop off was just a right angle, right? Where you just peek over and then it's just like a right angle, right? I hope that makes sense. So people would just go up there and then they could take a little step forward to poke their head out and then get off a bunch of shots. And then if someone starts shooting at them, they just have to take one step back and then they're back in cover. Like they're totally, totally protected. So I was like, okay, it seems like a problem because everyone was trying to get there. And not only was it a problem, like if everyone tries to get there, like, hey, if the area is fun, like if that's a fun spot where everyone wants to go, that's great. But it felt like it was an overpowered spot. Not just it felt like it was. So I was like, okay, well, how can I try to balance this spot a little bit better? So the first step, like my first attempt was I added 3 of these like big structure, like kind of these pillar things. So that if you're on the roof and you want to kind of snipe off the roof, there are almost like these 3 little windows that you can snipe from, so that it would be more predictable if you're on the bottom of the map and like looking up, trying to figure out like, okay, where do I need to keep an eye on? Like someone might pop out at any moment. Now, instead of like the danger zone being the entire roof, now it was like, okay, now I just have to keep an eye out for these 3 little windows. Okay. So that was like attempt number 1. And it helped. It helped a lot because like it worked. Like if people wanted to go up there and snipe, they'd kind of pick one of those 3 windows. And then that's where they would be. It was more predictable. And I think it worked. It helped a lot. Okay. But it still felt really, really powerful. Like it still felt too powerful. So not the second attempt, but like the second iteration of that was I kept those 3 structures that kind of forced you to pick a window. And then instead of the roof being like a right angle where it would just be an immediate drop off, I think I beveled the edge to be like not quite 45 degrees, but I kind of created a little slant to the edge so that now instead of taking one step forward and then you can snipe and like shoot people, and then if you get shot at, before it was you take one step back and then you're back in cover immediately, right? Now, after doing like the little beveled edge thing where there's a slope, it made it so that if you want to snipe from up there, you have to take several steps forward. You have to really expose yourself to get into that powerful position. And then if you're getting shot at, it takes several steps back. Like it takes some time to get back. So and that was like the final iteration. Like I think it totally worked. Where it's still a really powerful position, right? You can see a lot of people if you're in one of those windows. I mean, I'm calling them windows, but I hope it makes sense how I'm describing it. You're in a really powerful position, but now you're like more exposed, so there's more risk to the reward. And I think all across the map there have been, like conversations like that, or maybe areas that are a little over. Oh, hey, another. I won't go as in depth on this one, but another pretty powerful spot was, I think this was a big problem, was the roof of what looks like an office building, pretty much, where there are those cubicles. To get to the roof of that building, there was one stairway, pretty much, from the big room where there's all the cubicles. There's just one stairway that leads up to the roof. There's no other way to get up to the roof. If you want to jump down from the roof, you can. If you want to like take a little bit of damage, you can jump onto the terrace thing. But to get up, there was only one way, and it was just like, it was kind of like a death trap. Like if you were up there and you just kind of sit in a little corner in the stairway looking down at where people might come up, it was really, really, really easy to get a kill there. And it was just a really, really powerful spot. And it was I think some powerful spots like that, where if you want to be sneaky and hide in a little corner kind of thing, like I think you could justify that some of those are okay, as long as there's a counter to spots like that, right? So if someone knows you're there and they know the path, like they know what the counter is, then they have proving ground that everyone got to play in Snapshot 2. There was only one way up, but then for Snapshot 3, on the outside, there are I think there are at least 2 or 3 ladders that kind of can climb up the exterior, which now those are a super solid counter to that one spot. And I'm sure there's a lot of other areas like that, but I think that's a really fun part of my job, is like, okay, I made this design. Oh man, I unintentionally created like this ridiculously powerful spot right here, but it's kind of fun. Maybe if I don't want to I don't want to completely ruin it and make it so that nobody ever wants to go there again. It's fun to try to find a balance between, completely ruining stuff like that and then making it like balanced and adding counters and stuff. I think that's really fun. But those are 2 spots like that: the apartment roof kind of like ledge, and then the office roof were pretty interesting to try to figure out how to balance. But I think for Snapshot 3, I think we did a good job. But hey, you guys let us know if there are other spots like that. Like, really let us know. We don't want we want to know about stuff like that.
We don't want you having too much fun.
We don't want Brad getting all the kills.
Brad, I have a question. Why were you iterating on that rooftop to make it easier to snipe if we don't have snipers in the game?
No, I know where you're going with this. But even in Snapshot 2 with the I don't remember which pistol it was. I think it might have been pistol C. It was the one that looks like a revolver, kind of. That thing, if you crouch and then don't even ADS, then your reticle gets so tight that you could, in SS2, you could snipe with that. It was insane.
Wow.
But hey, I wonder, moving forward, it would be cool to, I wonder what other weapon types we're going to see, huh?
Oh my gosh, that was the cringe.
Hey, man, Rob,
I think it's even more cringe to re-tease something we've already teased. No, just kidding. It's fine.
Hey, that was like an open invitation from Rob, so I took it.
Well, no, the cringe is not for you, Brad.
Oh, is it for Rob?
Don't start this. Okay? Let's not start this.
Just kidding. We love you, Rob. All right. So we do have a couple of speakers that have some questions. JRiv49, and then Shamgar.
Okay.
What's up? Whichever one of you wants to go first or is ready.
So is there aim assist or controller support at all in this game, or is it only keyboard?
That sounds like a Quinn/Rob question, which is fine.
Yes. Yeah, those are things we're working on. We have controller support in the game, and if you have controller support, then we need to be thinking about what kind of aim assist models we have. So there is some of that in Snapshot 3. We're tweaking and tuning it to make sure it feels right because it's definitely first pass and not near final at all, but definitely there to make it a little bit more competent with controller versus mouse and keyboard. And we know that sometimes these can be heated debates, and that's fine. We want these debates to be heated, but we're not necessarily trying to be like every other game out there. We're trying to do what's right for Dead Drop and try to make sure that the players that play on different inputs and hardware are going to be supported because, again, our main goal is that this is not just on PC, but also on console as well.
That's really good to hear because a lot of Web3 games I've been beta testing, they haven't had controller support. So that's like really reassuring to hear. As far as like content creators go, how do you plan to support them, or do you not like? Do you want to get them active and involved with your game, or what's your stance on that?
Well, there's all sorts of content creators. Are you referring to strictly just like making content in the game or for the game, or content creators making YouTube videos and stuff like that?
I guess both.
Oh, both. Why not? Why not have both?
I need to step out for like 30 seconds. 1 sec.
No, Brad.
Okay, he's gone. He's got to
Brad,
kill his co-host status now.
Oh, he might lose his
Kick him.
co-host status.
Yeah, UGC is a big deal for us. That is something that we are going to be talking about more in the future on a very granular level, but at a high level, it is something that we love and we want to support as a studio and with Dead Drop. And then as far as content creators, I mean, as far as like streamers and YouTubers, I mean, I almost feel like from a game standpoint, we want to make a game that is easily watchable and viewable. And we talk about those kind of things a lot. Like, how much fun is it just to watch the game? How much fun is it to be a person playing the game and also trying to interact with people at the same time? And that's something that you have a challenge with lots of game designs that are multiplayer. When you have those arena style where it's respawn die, those are very fun games, and we love those kind of games. But from a viewer standpoint, it's really tough to be able to watch, and it's even worse from a streamer standpoint because how can you communicate and interact with your audience when you're always in the thick of things at all times? And so that is something for us that we're trying to take into account from a game design standpoint. But I know both Becca and Rob could even speak to what are some of our strategies on supporting content creators and trying to get those content creators to be bubbled up, and how do we amplify their voices as well. And even with the variants and our founders, like we feel like all of that is a virtuous cycle that we want to try to support.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say with, there's different types of content creators, right? And I know that we're talking kind of about like more in-game stuff, but even with socials, right? And like the communities, streams and things like that. So we definitely keep an eye out for all of that stuff from you guys. And again, it really doesn't matter how many followers you have or, viewers or whatever. If we see a stream that we really like and we think it's cool, we're going to share it. Like that's kind of how it goes. So we did something for Snapshot 3, like right before I did a poll on Twitter that was like, who's planning on streaming? Are you planning on just watching? And the goal of that was to, and then it was like, hey, drop your links in the replies. And the goal of that was so that if people, saw that poll or were like, oh yeah, I'm just going to watch. I'm not a streamer myself. But other people who were streamers, they could just go through the links. And I think I asked people to put their location, their time zone, or whatever. And it was cool because I definitely saw like it was all in one place. So you could see like, okay, so there's some people in the UK that are streaming at this time. There's some people who are streaming the live stream reveal, and then some people who are just streaming Dead Drop gameplay, like from whenever they decided to jump in the build. So that was really cool. And I think with stuff like that, it's just getting like a centralized place. And we do the same thing on Discord usually, where it's like the sentries will be like, hey, these people are hosting watch parties, or these people are, streaming on Twitch or YouTube or like wherever. I think that's really helpful too, because it's hard sometimes. I think if you're either not a founder or you're not a streamer or you're just like, I don't know whose thing to watch or where I should go to see gameplay. Like we show gameplay on the reveal streams with like the devs and then also some streamers from the community as well. But we are also doing deep dives with like the dev talks. We're talking about all the new features. We're talking about feedback and all of that. So yeah, so you kind of get everything in one place. But that being said, there's a lot of great content being created from a bunch of different founders. So yeah, we definitely try to share that stuff when we can. And then any tweets that we see that are like, you know, posting photos of some of the new features or some of the new loot that maybe we've added or things like that. Yeah, there's a lot of good content out there, and we definitely want to support it as much as we can. Yeah, so that's kind of the short answer with I think more of the like external stuff, not the in-game UGC, which we don't have stood up yet, but that is something that I know, and Rob can speak more to that too, that we're planning on having, and then you know different roles that are going to emerge with like the embers, right, and things like that. So yeah, Rob, if maybe you want to talk about other types of UGC.
I don't.
Yeah.
What?
Can I
Okay,
ask
I'll
another
talk about
question?
it.
Well, you could even just give people a little taste. I know we don't have
Yeah,
the time
yeah.
to
I
show you
think I think the big thing to walk away with is we have big UGC plans for this game and the community in the long term, right? I think our philosophy is let's create a really compelling, rich, deep multiplayer experience, and then empower our community to expand that however they see fit. Like that's a core philosophy of our studio. So one of the big things that we're putting a lot of time and effort in and investment in is making sure that how we build weapons, how we build assets, how we build characters, how we build everything in the game can be exposed and replicated to our community so that eventually you will be able to make things in the same quality, in the same process, using the same tools and same pipelines that we use to make the game. We don't want our community to be restricted creating content any more than we are restricted creating content. Because I think if we achieve that, this game will get to a point that it could live forever, right? Because I think that is the future of where games as services are going. Where right now, games, the success and the livelihood of a game exists entirely on the company that started it, right? Like if Blizzard goes out of business, all the Blizzard games go offline, right? In theory, right? Like that's a terrible example because it's a huge company and somebody will keep it alive. But the ideal is that if a company goes out of business, the game goes with it, right? I think games that have big online communities should be built from the ground up, that they can be sustained and expanded on and live forever as long as that community lives forever and wants to support it. But step one of that is create a killer game that people want to spend time in, they want to build stuff for, and then give them the ability to expand it and the freedom and the empowerment to do that. So that's really what we're looking at is how do you do that from day one?
Great answer. In light of the events that happened with FTX and just other things, stuff like the SEC are gonna probably try to regulate and like create new rules and laws and everything for all of this. How do you think any of that impacts your projects or anything that you have going forward? And will you be able to adjust with all of that happening? Or
Yeah, it doesn't impact us at all because we chose from day one to not be a blockchain game. And what I say by that is like we are a game that does not require blockchain. It doesn't require any crypto elements. Like you could play the game, you could, play. You're not limited in any capacity, right? You could play, you can earn stuff, you can unlock stuff, you can sell and trade that stuff with other players in the community without even touching any of the blockchain stuff. Where the blockchain and crypto stuff comes in is we also wanted you to have the ability, the additional ability, besides doing all the stuff that every player can do in game, we also wanted you to have the additional ability of owning that stuff and selling it outside of the game if you so choose. So it was about empowering the community with freedom to do it. And the other thing is, it's like, I feel like crypto and blockchain is like a big umbrella that includes a lot of stuff that is very different from each other, right? And how even in that use case that I talked about of like, hey, you have this thing and you can sell it or trade it inside of our game with other players with no sort of crypto impact. Or you can sell it outside the world, right? When you sell it outside the game, that's when you're dealing with blockchain and stuff like that. But even in that scenario, these are generally not speculative assets, right? Like the thing that I think catches a lot of people off guard with crypto is like it's like, oh, here's a token. Oh, what's it worth? Whatever you say it's worth, right? Whatever the market decides. That's not really, the type of stuff that we deal in. We deal in stuff that's like, oh no, it has a value to it, right? That doesn't mean the value can't go up, but it's not a speculative coin. So in that way, that's a long-winded way of saying like things like that, like the FTX disaster and the collapse of markets, don't really impact anything that we're doing because we are not those types of assets, nor is the core gameplay or the game itself influenced by those markets in any way.
Hello, everybody. Hey, 12 a.m. I hope everyone's doing great. Um, just want to reiterate on what Brad was saying about these certain areas in the map. I love the thought process behind that. I love sneaking up to the top of that roof above the cubicles, right? Getting up to that electric tower or metal tower that's up at the very top, and just looking and finding people to hit or to zip line to. So great ideas, great process, great concepts. I'm loving Snapshot 3. I love where it's going. I couldn't stop playing this weekend. I don't know if you guys saw me on or everybody in chat in Discord. I was trying to communicate with everybody. With that said, when it comes to map and level design, Brad,
Yeah.
Robert, Quinn, everybody, what's your thought process on the big board? Are you looking more for close quarter combat? Are you looking for ways to have sniping lanes? Are you going to eliminate long or big areas of the map where unneeded areas of the map? Are you looking for all of that? Just looking for the broader, bigger picture. Like what's your guys' thought process on that?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's really nice to hear you say good things about Proving Ground. That's awesome. I appreciate you saying that. And I think so. Okay, so I guess like big picture, what I think Proving Ground does really well is it gives us like a taste of all of the different, like of a lot of different gameplay scenarios. Like for example, there are in Proving Ground, there already are a lot of really like long sight lines for like long range encounter kind of stuff, and then there are some spots where they're like really tight hallways for super close quarter stuff. So I think that is really good because it gives us it helps us learn a lot about like, okay, what do we, if there are like X number of different, I don't like kind of encounters you can have, which are the most fun for our game, or like, okay, like this, maybe are our close quarters areas, are they too tight? Like, is it too much? I don't know, stuff like that. So I think we're learning a lot, but yeah, what I really like about Proving Ground is I feel like it has a little taste of everything. So moving forward, on my end, I would like to try to keep a little taste of everything throughout. I don't know how much I should say, but like some of these
Watch yourself.
watch myself. Some of these places where we're designing are really big. So yeah, I'm thinking of like, okay, or no, okay, this is what I was gonna say. We're designing some spaces that are really big. So I would hope that in these really big spaces we can have pockets of plenty of different styles of gameplay, like these long sight lines. I would imagine there will be opportunities for that. and then there'll be other spots where there's going to be opportunities for like CQB stuff. Like, so if you prefer one or other of those like different gameplay styles, then I would imagine that there's going to be a spot in this whole area we're making that you're going to really like. And probably the way I'm describing that is might sound like a little vague, but a lot of it comes from like the creative direction, right? So I'm working with Quinn on a lot of those questions, and he's been really awesome with giving me good direction and helping me create environments that like do allow us to showcase all the different systems of our game and like stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll chime in here. I think, from a big picture standpoint, Proving Grounds, what you're playing right now that Brad has built is literally that, right? It's a proving grounds to prove out gameplay mechanics, movement ability, pacing of stuff, weapon systems, PvP combat, how the loot system works, like all the foundational mechanics that we are going to need for the core gameplay loop once we get to the refiner state, once we get into the tower, right? But when you're talking about the tower level design, which is like, that's why Brad was like hesitant to be like, oh, I don't know what I can say, right? Because he is already living in the future. He's already working on the level designs and the core spaces that are going to make up that tower. Now, the really cool thing about the tower is that it is built out of many sectors, right? But many sectors, each sector is built out of many points of interest, right? Many POIs. So if you think about it from a super high level down to the granular level, the whole play space that 100 players are going to be playing in once the game launch, right? And I say 100 tentatively. There's an asterisk on that number. We'll figure out the exact player count based on playtesting and what feels right. But when you're looking at designing that entire tower, you're actually not designing it how you do like a normal arena shooter map, right? Like an arena shooter map, like, like, oh, this is a small map, or this is a CQB map, or this is a sniper map. But really with a tower, because it is sectors, many sectors built of many POIs, you get exactly what Brad's talking about, where there's enough pockets, there's enough areas and zones per sector, and especially in the tower as a whole, where you get a little bit of everything, right? Mm-hmm. And I think what I'm interested in seeing Quinn and Brad and the design team sort of settle on is like the cadence of that stuff, right? Like, is there like, we know that there's a theme to each sector, right? There's a style to each sector where they're unique in their visual style, in their environments. But from a gameplay standpoint, I'm really interested to see what they decide on, like, is there a sector that is like catering very much to snipers and one that's very much to CQB. But even with that, even if it does cater in one direction, there's such large spaces that there's enough room to get a little bit of everything in there. Especially since the goal of this game is not to drop into one sector and stay in that sector for the whole session, right? Like, you're going to be moving from space to space to space, looting, running, fighting. So you're like sort of constantly always moving between these zones.
Appreciate it, team. Appreciate it big time. Looking forward to whatever comes through. Like I said, I couldn't stop playing what we have now this weekend, going into this week, and looking forward to tests, whatever you guys throw at us, and play, and looking forward to it all. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, I will say it. Brad says it to himself in the mirror, but I'll say it publicly. He killed it. He nailed it.
Thank you.
I think he did a great job. I didn't think he would. Like, he came in, his day one. You remember this? Brad walked in. He had a pop collar. He had a bright yellow shirt on. I'm like, who is this character?
Yep.
Who is this dude? His hair was slicked back. I was like, I don't know about this guy.
Little pencil mustache.
But we made you shave it. You remember that? We're like, you shaved it on camera. We made you shave it.
I remember you guys pinned me down.
And then, but you know what? You proved me wrong, man. You proved me wrong. You did it. I still don't like to look at you, but man, your levels are good.
Oh my gosh. So we have time for a couple more questions. Let's hear from Professor Every time you come up here, I have a hard prof pressure, professor pressure, maybe professional
Yes, that's
pressure.
it.
Oh,
Yeah, in
I'm
regards
sorry.
to in regards to like the map design and stuff, it looks excellent because I think a lot of my questions got answered. Because I know Tarkov is kind of like the vision of it, like the freedom and going in different maps and whatnot. Because the game isn't finished yet, and eventually it'll connect maps together. That is how this game is going to be as well too, but more of like a division type in regards to like the dead zone areas or like the safe zone areas kind of thing.
So the question is, are these spaces going to be connected? Like you can go through them on the same session, or are they going to be separated? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, is it going to be more like how when Tarkov actually finishes, like going to each of these levels, or we're going to be selecting it, or like walking around like the division, and then there's like different areas you can go to. That's like dead zones, safe zones, and kind of like hang out with people around the area, or just go straight to fighting. Like, how will it actually be like? 'Cause I never asked that question. I don't think.
Yeah, the game flow is something that at a high level we have plans for and what we're shooting for, and but anything can change as we are playtesting and putting out these snapshots. But right now, the way we're looking at it is you're in the hideout, you say you want to go to the tower, and then we're going to match make you to the tower. And when we have multiple sectors in the tower, we're kicking around how much choice we want to give the player. Do you want to be able to choose to go to a specific sector, or if we have, let's say, I don't know, 4 sectors alive in the tower at a time, do we say you only get to choose between 2 of the sectors, right? Like how much choice do we want to give the player? And then when the player gets there, the big goal that we're shooting for is that we want players to be able to freely flow between the sectors instead of each sector just being its own server that is separate from the other sectors. That is the goal. That is something we're shooting for and doing everything we can to make it happen. But like I said at the beginning of this answer, is things can and will change just depending on not just creatively, but also, um, how are people feeling it or not, right? And how's it gonna go? So that's where we want the feedback as we continue to do these snapshots. And I really like questions like that because we're not going to shy away from them and we'll answer them. But not everything is going to, just because I say this right now on November 15th doesn't mean that's going to be set in stone because things are going to change.
Awesome,
Yeah,
and I'm gonna keep asking it too, just to
Of
see
course,
how
yeah.
the answers change. But that's excellent because it gives more flexibility of direction, and with the feedback, which I'm still lazily not putting feedback, even though I've played the second and third snapshot, which I got to actually do. I started work in the Marine Corps, now I'm gonna have no life again.
oh
So
wow.
I'm trying to like get back into it and get my buddies to play, and so we can all come together and talk about the game in a direction so far. And I see one of the guys here. He just joined the Discord, Blue Mojo. I see you. And just trying to like get more people together and just in the Web3 space and just in general in gaming just to get it better because like I said, like I've never ever talked to developers besides with the team here and with Metalcore. And it's excellent to see that you guys actually are caring about what gamers say, unlike the AAA companies that you see nowadays that are like ghosts.
Oh yeah. It's what we're all about. It's pretty cool. I mean, we all came from so many different worlds where we are not used to being able to talk as openly and freely maybe as we wanted to. So yeah, it's fun for us too. We like it as much as you do.
Yeah.
Nice. And I do have one last question. Is the snapshot, the next one, going to have party invites or soon? Or is that not really like in the picture just yet?
Not quite yet. It is something that we're going to have and we want to have. We need those social features, but that's not in the cards for the next snapshot.
Gotcha. That's all I have. Thank y'all for your time. I'm going to continue playing Call of Duty and listening in my car before going back into work.
Right on. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, wow. It's really nice that people are like joining on their lunch breaks and stuff too. Cool. Okay, so who's up next? Charity Horde. Did you have a question?
Hello, hey everyone. Thanks for bringing me up. I appreciate you. This is really exciting. I'm considering very strongly getting the Founders Pass and checking it out. I think it's fantastic. I actually think that this is probably the best use of NFTs that I've seen. I've been into NFTs for a few years, so. But I wanted to ask you guys the comic. I have a couple questions, but I'm going to keep it short. I know everyone doesn't have infinite time. The comic books, as far as collecting them goes, is that I'm sure it's just for funsies, right? But like, how many comic books are there to collect? And is there any secret plans that you can reveal now that you haven't revealed before? I'm sure it's just for fun, but it seems like a really cool thing to do and something to make fun content around.
Yeah, I love the comics. There are 15 total. So right now there's 3 series of 5 issues each. Every 5 issues is a black and white series. So if you collect them all, you'll notice that they go through different eras. Like the first we call the Silver Era, where it has a very specific retro style to it. The second one is the Extraction series. It's all about different types of extractions. And then the third series is the Claw series. It's about different characters within the universe. Every single issue, you can't tell because you can't really see the front covers clearly enough in the build right now, because they're just little icons, but every cover has like codex on it, it has Easter eggs, it has secrets. So there's definitely more to learn from the comics. And you just have to wait around and see, man. I'm not gonna spoil it. I love the comics. I love where it's going. I love it because like the thing is, and we've talked about this a lot internally, right? Is like we are not like we're an online only shooter, right? We're not in what you would traditionally call a narrative game, right? Where there's a single player and there's cutscenes. We don't have any of that stuff. But we are having a lot of fun of finding ways like all the narrative is going to live in the world, right? There is narrative, there is lore, but it's going to be baked into the experience. And we're never going to stop you from playing to like sit and listen to our story or learn about these characters. But we are definitely going to find really cool ways. And the issues are one of those. The DRCC SAPMs are one of those ways that we sort of weave in narrative and lore and sort of give some Easter eggs and glimpses into more of the universe. So I'm glad you're enjoying them, man. I really like that because they're near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, the lore, the comics are definitely Rob's baby, but like with the lore too, I think a lot of us on the team are just we have that similar, I guess, propensity for games that do have good lore. And in the feedback forms, one of the like I would say this came up at least 3 or 4 written answers that I saw for sure, but repeatedly people's feedback on the lore was we want it if it has meaning. We like it when it's done well. So I think that that's at least for me too, like keeping it in the back of my mind whenever we're, you know, brainstorming or like trying to think of, you know, new directions to take the lore. It's kind of like that guiding North Star where it's like, okay, definitely, you know, keeping us on track. Because yeah, like Rob said, we're, you know, an online shooter. We're an FPS game. We don't have a campaign. This isn't single player, but like, and we're not going to have these like long cutscenes or you know anything like that. But we are having a lot of fun with it, and yeah, so it's good to hear that that there are a lot of fans of the lore out there too.
A lot
It
of that.
looked like Call of Duty took that idea for some reason.
Yeah, the sneaky snakes, always listening. Hey, listen, I feel like
Hey,
now
imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right?
it's true. But
That's
listen, man, this
Uh-huh.
this extraction shooter stuff, it's like it's growing, it's big. There, you're gonna start seeing a lot of shared features. Like that's the thing about the game industry, and we've talked about this a lot, right? Is like the moment somebody has a good idea, everybody's trying to do it as well. And you know, the key is to do it in a way that has a unique personality, a unique style that can't be replicated, right? Like let people, you know, take cool features and spread them around. Because if they're a cool feature, they should be in every game, right? Just do it in a way that's like unique to your experience, and I'm never gonna have an issue with it.
That's really well said.
Yeah. I had no idea about all the covers having been thought out that much. I'm just over here trying to get kills, man. I didn't know like it was like the different eras, and then I was like, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Brad doesn't even look at the loot. He doesn't even loot bodies.
If it's not a weapon or ammo, it's just like, what's the point, right?
And I hope
I'm
we never
partial to
play
the
an objective
obelisk,
game
but
together, Brad.
Hey, for you'd be surprised in like in objective games. I'm the opposite. I'm the one trying to. Everyone else is like running away from the capture point, and I'm like the one person sitting there trying to harvest the points.
All right.
Just want to state my case. Give myself some credit.
I now
All
respect
right.
you.
But not with the pencil mustache. Apparently, he didn't respect you then.
No.
After they tore it out of my face, hair by hair.
Savage.
Will you
All
have
right.
anything in
Okay.
the game against like people who do like toxic things or say any like racist remarks or anything?
Oh man, that's a really great question. So we actually are evaluating some tools right now that are going to be twofold, right? They help us identify that what we call community sentiment, right? Like things are being said in games, things are being done in game behavior, like outside of gameplay behavior, right? But that can also help us identify issues and allow people to have ways to provide feedback about specific features and about specific stuff directly in the game. And so there are some third-party tools that we're evaluating. Literally after this meeting, I have that meeting to go over that we're looking to incorporate that help us identify and then decide how we want to handle that stuff. I think how you handle it is going to be very interesting because I think that's going to be something that is like a community decision, right? We need to decide as a community what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and what appropriate like sort of actions are for that stuff. But yes, the short answer is we're looking at tools to help us sort of identify that stuff, flag users, identify users, so that we then have the information and data that we need to take action. What that action is, we need to figure out.
That's at least a good answer. I would just like to think about that more and more because I mean, I play like also Web 2 games still, but I am obviously like, very big into Web 3 and like playing like Fortnite at like a comp or professional level. The whole community is like really toxic and negative. So I was wondering like if a community like that transferred over to like Web 3 spaces or games. I was wondering how you all would deal with that influx of either like just childish, immature kids or just like downright like childish people in general.
Yeah, I think we always where I stand for it is I don't think we have a stance as a company yet, but where I stand for it is I always want to keep the high energy, like shit talking alive, especially in a first person shooter community, right? But draw the line of toxicity, right? It's like, where can we all have a good time? Like, I like the Raz Brad. I like we like to joke around, but where do we stop at the point that it becomes like distracting to the core experience? But I was also born in fire and darkness through the Call of Duty years. So I have the thickest skin available.
Yes, I remember I've encountered that a lot in Call of Duty, and the funniest thing is when you beat them after the racist remarks and they all leave the game. And it's like, yeah,
Oh damn. Yeah. I think it's something that I personally also really care about as well. Cool. So I'm sorry, guys. We are kind of running low on time. I know we have some people that looks like they're still requesting to be in the room. Well, okay. Let me just ask Rob, Quinn, and Brad. How do you guys feel about taking a couple more questions? Do we have time? Rob has a meeting. I know
Rob has a meeting. I saw that there's like a comments or something like that. Becca, do you know if once this
Yes. Okay. So
can we still see those questions after?
Yes, I was just gonna say. So at the end of the spaces, I always let people know, like, even if you were not able to verbally answer or ask your question, or you didn't feel comfortable, because yeah, obviously no pressure if people don't want to talk on the space. Rob will go into the comments, and we will, answer as many questions as we can after. So whenever he gets around to it. I know he just said he had a meeting, but yeah. So those comments will stick around. And we can go look at them after as well. Yeah, to answer your question, Brad. Yes, we can answer them later too.
Yeah, so I was saying I have a little more time. If everyone else has more time, I can answer more questions. If not, I could totally do either way. I'm going to look at those comments and respond.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to do actually before we sign off, real quick, is thank everyone that submitted a gameplay clip for the hashtag 12 a.m. moments contest to try to win a hoodie. We saw some really awesome clips in there and really, really appreciate everyone's excitement for it because it was our first giveaway, at least on socials. Yeah, so I wanted to also announce the winners of that contest. I don't know if any of them are in here, but that'd be cool. That'd be cool if they are. But yeah, so yeah. So in no particular order, we'll just say the winners of the hashtag 12 a.m. moments hoodie contest are. Where's my drum? Drum roll.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh.
The Sunny OG, you have won a limited edition Day Zero Series Zero collection hoodie. Evil Sin Greed, you have also won a hoodie. Red 5, is Red in here? I feel like they're usually in here. And Billy Sundown. So yeah, those are our 4 winners. Thank you guys so much, and we will be reaching out to get your info and send you one of these hoodies.
I just want to say that Billy Sundown and Brad hunted me down last playtest.
What, really?
I think he should be disqualified.
Oh, come on.
As long maybe hey, for what it's worth, when I was with him and we were I think it was like just me and him in a Discord channel after the SS3 launch, I was stream sniping Rob pretty hard, and I was like, "Hey, should I tell
you heard it? Becky, you heard it.
From
wow.
No, listen. Sure, I'll be disqualified. That's fine. I already got my hoodie. But what I was gonna say is Billy. I was like, hey, should I tell you where he is, if he's up or if he's down? He's like, no, don't tell me. So he is an honest gamer. Totally, yeah.
Right. Billy can keep
Oh my
his
gosh,
hoodie.
that's funny.
He wasn't.
Quinn,
he was
take
not
Brad's
being
hoodie.
naughty. Yeah, take my.
We
He wasn't
do have.
being naughty.
I was gonna say we'll also be shouting out some honorable mentions as well. There were there were a lot of really good submissions. So yeah. Anyway, thanks everyone.
Where can we see those clips, Becca?
Well, are you asking like
I'm legit asking.
the
like,
tweets?
I want to see.
So actually, if you go on Twitter, you can just look at the hashtag 12 a.m. moments. So it is 2 M's. Yeah, and you can actually see all of the submissions in there. But we will also be highlighting on our socials the winners as well as some honorable mentions as well. So yeah, fun times.
I'm gonna look at those. And I'm gonna answer.
Oh, I see one of our honorable mentions in here also. Space Cowboy. Thank you. Wait, where'd you go? Did you leave? Okay, that's okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. This was awesome. You can also let us know in the comments what you thought about this Twitter space. If you want to see more of these either on map and level design in the future or other topics. We obviously have so many areas of development that we could cover, whether it's art, Darren's been in here listening. We have Rat Boy in here as well, whether it's, systems based or honestly, any topic we're open to at least. So if you're trying to get into engineering or you're an engineer yourself and you want to talk to some of our engineers, that's something we could also make happen. So So thanks again, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.